Padre Pio was in the town square in San Giovanni Rotondo when he witnessed a scene that stopped him dead in his tracks. A mom was shouting at her son, about 8 years old, in front of everyone. She was calling him stupid, saying he was an embarrassment, that he was worthless. The boy stood there, head down, tears streaming down his face, while everyone around watched his humiliation. Padre Pio approached, and what he said to that mom shocked everyone. He told her that she had just committed one of the most serious sins a parent can commit against a child. He said that what she had done in those 2 minutes would scar that boy for the rest of his life. He said she had destroyed something in that child's soul that would take years to rebuild, if it could ever be rebuilt. The mom became furious. She said she was just disciplining her son, that he had done something wrong and needed to learn, that parents of yesteryear were much tougher and children turned out better. And Padre Pio responded with something that Mom never forgot. He said that correcting a child in private is discipline. Correcting a child in public is humiliation. He said the difference between the two is the difference between building a person and destroying a person, and she had chosen to destroy. What I'm about to reveal to you about what Padre Pio saw when parents humiliated their children in public will change forever how you discipline. Because Padre Pio didn't just see the external scene. He saw what happened in that child's soul. He saw the invisible wounds being opened. He saw the marks that would last for decades. He saw the damage parents were doing without having the slightest idea. Padre Pio explained that children have a fundamental need to feel safe in the love of their parents. That's the foundation of everything, the foundation of self-esteem, the foundation of trust, the foundation of the ability to love and be loved. When that foundation is solid, the child can face anything. When that foundation is cracked, the child becomes vulnerable to everything. And public humiliation cracks that foundation in a profound way, because it's not just a correction, it's a message that says, you are not worthy of respect, you are not worthy of protection. Your parents, who should be defending you, are attacking you in front of everyone. If even your parents don't respect you, who will? Padre Pio saw in the spiritual world what happened when a child was humiliated in public. He saw a wound opening in the child's heart, a wound that radiated pain, a wound that attracted spirits of shame, of inferiority, of self-hatred, and those spirits clung to that wound and began to whisper lies that the child would carry through life. You are stupid. You are an embarrassment. You are worthless. The same words the mom said became an internal mantra that the child would repeat to themselves for years, decades, sometimes for their entire life. Padre Pio dealt with several cases of adults who came to him with problems that stemmed from humiliations in childhood. A 40-year-old man who couldn't hold down a job because he was terrified of making mistakes. Every time he messed something up, even small things, he panicked, sweated cold, wanted to disappear. When Padre Pio investigated this man's history, he discovered the origin. The father used to humiliate him in front of his friends every time he got a bad grade in school, called him stupid, said he would never amount to anything in life. He did this, thinking he would motivate his son to study harder. The result was the opposite. The son grew up with so much fear of making mistakes that he became paralyzed, couldn't risk anything, couldn't try anything new, because every attempt could result in a mistake, and a mistake meant humiliation, and humiliation was unbearable. Padre Pio worked with this man for years, helped him understand where the fear came from, helped him forgive his father, helped him rebuild what had been destroyed. But it was a long and painful process, a process that could have been avoided if the father had corrected him in private instead of humiliating him in public. There was another case that Padre Pio knew, A woman who couldn't accept compliments. Every time someone said something positive about her, she dismissed it, minimized it, changed the subject. She genuinely didn't believe she had value, didn't believe she deserved good things, didn't believe she was worthy of love. When Padre Pio talked with her, he discovered that the mom used to compare her to other children, in front of everyone, in front of the neighbors, in front of the aunts, in front of anyone who would listen. Said the neighbor's daughter was prettier, that the aunt's daughter was smarter, that her own daughter was a disappointment. The mom thought she was motivating her daughter to improve. In reality, she was planting a devastating belief. The belief that she would never be good enough. No matter what she did, no matter what she achieved, there would always be someone better, and she would always be a disappointment. That woman spent her whole life trying to prove her worth, worked excessively, pushed herself beyond her limits, achieved impressive accomplishments, but it was never enough. The mum's voice continued echoing, never good enough, always a disappointment. Padre Pio helped this woman identify the lie, helped her understand that her worth didn't depend on comparisons, helped her hear a different voice, God's voice. That said she was loved unconditionally, but again, it was a long process, a process that the mom had started without knowing what she was doing. And there were even more serious cases. Padre Pio knew young people who had tried to take their own lives because of repeated humiliations. He knew adults who lived in deep depression because of words said decades ago. He knew people who couldn't form healthy relationships because they never learned they were worthy of respect. There was one particularly tragic case that Padre Pio never forgot. A 16-year-old girl who took her own life. When the family came to him after the tragedy, trying to understand what had happened, Padre Pio investigated the story. He discovered that the mom had a habit of criticizing her daughter in front of her friends, criticized her weight, criticized her grades, criticized her appearance, criticized her choices. Nothing the girl did was good enough. And the mom made sure to express this dissatisfaction in front of other people. The girl left a letter before she died, and in that letter she wrote something that destroyed the mom. Wrote that she was tired of being an embarrassment, tired of never being good enough, tired of being humiliated in front of everyone. Wrote that if even her own mom didn't love her, then she didn't deserve to live. The mom was devastated, said she loved her daughter, said she only wanted her to improve, said she never imagined the criticisms were so serious. Padre Pio, with tears in his eyes, told a mom something she carried with her for the rest of her life. He said that words have the power of life and death, that what she called criticism, her daughter felt as condemnation, that what she thought was motivation, her daughter received as rejection, and that the difference between the mom's intention and the impact on the daughter was the difference between life and death. This extreme case showed what Padre Pio always warned. You never know the weight your words have on your child's soul. You never know how fragile they are inside. You never know if the next humiliation will be the one that breaks them definitively. And there was another case of a young boy who developed a severe stutter after being humiliated by his dad in front of the entire class. The dad had gone to a meeting at the school, and when the teacher mentioned that his son had difficulties in math, the dad exploded. In front of all the other parents and kids, he yelled at his son, called him stupid, said he was ashamed to have a son like that. The boy could never speak normally again. Every time he tried to talk, especially in front of other people, he froze, he stuttered. The words wouldn't come out. It was as if his voice had been stolen in that moment of humiliation. Padre Pio worked with this boy for years, with prayer, with spiritual guidance, with a lot of patience. The stutter gradually lessened, but it never completely disappeared. The trauma had settled so deeply that it left a permanent mark. And in almost all these cases, The parents had no intention of destroying. They thought they were educating. They thought they were preparing their kids for the world. They thought they were being good parents, and they didn't realize the damage they were doing. Padre Pio was especially hard on parents who justified public humiliation as an educational method. He said it was cowardice disguised as education because the kid can't defend themselves, can't respond, can't get out of the situation. They are completely at the mercy of the adult, and using that position of power to humiliate was abuse, not education. He would ask a provocative question to these parents. If your boss yelled at you in front of all your co-workers, calling you stupid and incompetent, would you accept that as education? Or would you feel humiliated, disrespected, wronged? The parents usually responded that they would feel humiliated, that no boss should do that it would be abuse of power. And Padre Pio would then ask, then why do you do that to your child? You have even more power over them than any boss has over an employee. Your child depends on you for everything, trusts you completely, and you use that trust to humiliate them in front of everyone? Many parents, when they heard this, would fall silent. They had never thought of it that way. They had never put themselves in their child's place. They had never realized that they were doing to the kid something that they would never accept being done to them. Padre Pio also warned about the different contexts of public humiliation and how each had its own weight. Humiliation in front of strangers was damaging, but in a different way. The kid felt momentary embarrassment, but could take comfort in thinking that they would never see those people again. Humiliation in front of friends was worse because the kid would have to continue interacting with those friends, would have to face stares, would have to endure possible jokes. The embarrassment extended beyond the moment. Humiliation in front of family members was even more serious because family was permanent. Every family gathering would bring back the memory. Every encounter would be a reminder. The embarrassment became chronic. And the worst of all was humiliation in front of siblings, because the siblings lived in the same house, saw the kid every day, and often used the humiliation as a weapon in future conflicts. They remembered the episode, threw it in their face, perpetuated the wound. Padre Pio knew families where siblings had become enemies because of humiliations that the parents had caused. The dad compared the children publicly, said that one was better than the other, and the siblings, instead of uniting, became rivals, hated each other and competed destructively, and when the parents died, the family dissolved completely. He warned parents about the danger of creating competition between siblings. He said that each child should be treated as unique, without comparisons, without rankings, without favorites, and especially without public humiliations that positioned one sibling as superior to the other. There was one family that Padre Pio worked with where this problem was chronic. The dad had a habit of praising the older son in front of the younger one. He said that the older one was intelligent, hard-working, exemplary, and he looked at the younger one with disdain, saying he was the opposite. The younger son grew up hating his brother, not because of the brother's fault, because of the dad who created this division. And as adults, the two brothers didn't speak to each other. The younger one couldn't stand to see the older one. Each encounter brought back the humiliations of childhood. Padre Pio worked to reconcile these brothers. He helped the younger one understand that the anger was misdirected. The brother wasn't the villain. The dad was. He helped the older one understand the suffering of his brother, to have compassion, to not judge. Eventually, the brothers reconciled, but it took years, and the dad, already elderly, had to watch the tragedy that he himself had created, had to see the children that he loved divided because of his thoughtless words. Padre Pio taught that there was a golden rule for correcting children: praise in public, correct in private. When your child does something good, celebrate in front of everyone. Make them feel proud. Make others see their worth. But when your child does something wrong, take them to a corner, talk in private, explain the mistake, apply the consequence if necessary, but preserve their dignity. This simple rule, Padre Pio said, could completely change the relationship between parents and children because the child began to see the parents as allies, not as threats, began to trust that, even when they made mistakes, they would be treated with respect, began to know that the parents were on their side, even when they were correcting them. And there was another aspect that Padre Pio emphasized, the impact that public humiliation had on the relationship between parents and children in the long term. He knew many adults who had cut off contact with their parents, adults who didn't visit, didn't call, didn't want any relationship. And when he asked why, almost always the humiliations of childhood came up. It wasn't a single event. It was a pattern. Years of accumulated humiliations that had completely poisoned the relationship. These parents, now elderly, didn't understand why their children had distanced themselves. They said they had done everything for them, that they had worked hard, that they had given them an education, and they didn't realize that along with all that, they had also inflicted wounds that would never heal. And the kids, when they finally had the power to choose, chose to stay far away from the source of pain. Padre Pio said that this was an avoidable tragedy, a tragedy that started with small humiliations that seemed insignificant at the time, but that accumulated, that festered, that eventually exploded into definitive estrangement. And he warned parents, do you want your children around when you're old? Then treat them with respect now. Do you want them to take care of you when you need it? Then don't destroy them with your words. Do you want to have a united family in the future? Then build that union today with dignity and respect. There was a specific case that Padre Pio used to illustrate the gravity of public humiliation. A dad who had the habit of making fun of his son in front of guests. He'd tell embarrassing stories, make jokes about the boy's mistakes, laugh at his weaknesses, all in the name of good humor. The son grew up hating his father. He didn't respect him. He didn't obey him. He didn't trust him. And the father didn't understand. He said they were just jokes, that his son was too sensitive, that he needed to learn to laugh at himself. And Padre Pio explained something to this father that he had never considered. He said that public mockery wasn't a joke for the child. It was betrayal. The son trusted that his father would protect him, not expose his weaknesses for others to laugh at. He trusted that his father was on his side, not against him, and when the father mocked him, that trust was broken repeatedly until there was nothing left. The father was devastated when he understood. He tried to apologize to his son, but the son, already a teenager, didn't accept it. Years of resentment had built a wall that late apologies couldn't tear down. The father spent the following years trying to rebuild the relationship, some advances, many setbacks, a long battle that could have been avoided if he had treated his son with respect from the beginning. Padre Pio also spoke about the impact of humiliation on a child's faith. He said that children learn about God through their parents. If the parents are loving, the child learns that God is loving. If the parents are cruel, the child learns that God is cruel. If the parents humiliate, the child learns that God humiliates. Many adults who abandon their faith, Padre Pio observed, had parents who used God as an instrument of fear and shame. God is watching. God will punish you. God is ashamed of you. These phrases, said in moments of correction, associated God with humiliation. And when these children grew up, they wanted distance from a God who, in their minds, was as cruel as their parents. That's why Padre Pio implored Catholic parents to represent God faithfully to their children, to correct with love, not with humiliation, to discipline with respect, not with mockery, to show through their actions that God is a loving Father who corrects but never destroys. Padre Pio told the story of a family that made this transition, a family where the father had the habit of correcting publicly, where the mum compared the kids to each other and to other kids, where humiliation was the standard tool of education. This family came to Padre Pio because they were in crisis. The teenage children were rebellious. They didn't obey. They didn't respect. The house was a constant battlefield. The parents didn't understand what had happened. Padre Pio spent hours talking with this family, first with the parents, then with the kids separately, and what the kids said was revealing. They said they didn't respect their parents because their parents had never respected them. They said they didn't obey because every act of obedience in the past had been followed by more humiliation. They said they had built a wall to protect themselves, and now the parents were outside that wall, complaining that they couldn't get in. Padre Pio gathered the family and facilitated a difficult conversation. The parents heard, for the first time, the impact that their words had had. They heard the resentment saved for years. They heard how each public humiliation had added a stone to the wall. It was painful. There were tears. There were accusations. There was anger. But there was also something that had never existed in that family. There was truth. The parents asked for forgiveness, not a generic forgiveness, a specific forgiveness. They asked for forgiveness for each situation that the children mentioned. They acknowledged that they were wrong. They committed to change, and Padre Pio accompanied them in this change. In the first months, it was difficult. The old habits wanted to come back. The temptation to humiliate was always there. But the parents resisted. Every time they wanted to correct in public, they remembered the commitment. Every time they wanted to compare, they stopped. And little by little, something magical happened. The children started to change too. They started to lower their guard. They started to trust. The wall began to have cracks, and through those cracks, love began to enter. A year later, that family was unrecognizable, not perfect. They still had conflicts, they still had discussions, but they were a family where there was respect, a family where there was trust, a family where the children knew that, even when they messed up, they would be treated with dignity. Padre Pio said that this transformation was possible for any family, but it required humility from the parents. It required recognizing the error. It required asking for genuine forgiveness. It required a real commitment to change. And it required patience, because destroyed trust is not rebuilt overnight. He also warned about a subtle form of humiliation that many parents didn't realize. Humiliation through positive comparisons. When the father said, in front of the siblings, "Why can't you be like your brother, Kevin?" When the mom said, in front of her friends, "The neighbor's daughter, Ashley, is so diligent, I wish mine was like that." These comparisons, even when made with the intention of motivating, were disguised humiliations. They told the child that they weren't good enough, that they were inferior, that they were a disappointment when compared with others. Padre Pio taught that each child was unique. They had their own gifts. They had their own path. Comparing one child with another was unfair and destructive. It was like comparing a fish with a bird and criticizing the fish for not flying. The healthy comparison, he said, was the child with themselves. Are you better than you were yesterday? Are you growing? Are you making an effort? That was the fair parameter, not what your brother does, not what the neighbor's kid achieves, but the child's own progress. And there were specific practices that Padre Pio taught for parents who wanted to correct without humiliating. The first practice was to wait until you were calm. Many humiliations happened in the heat of the moment. The father was angry. He lost control. He said things he shouldn't have. Padre Pio used to say, "It's always best not to correct anyone when you're angry. Wait, breathe, calm down, and only then talk to your kid. The second piece of advice was to choose the right time and place. Don't correct them in front of visitors. Don't correct them in the middle of the store. Don't correct them where others can hear. Take your kid to a private place. Sit down, look them in the eyes, and then speak. The third piece of advice was to separate the behavior from the person. Don't say, "You're stupid." Say, "What you did was wrong." Don't say, "You're an embarrassment." Say, "This behavior embarrassed me." The kid needs to know that what they did was wrong, not that they are wrong. The fourth piece of advice was to explain the reason for the correction, not just punish. Explain why that behavior was problematic. Help the kid understand. Treat them as a thoughtful being, not as an animal to be trained. The fifth piece of advice was to end with a reaffirmation of love. After correcting them, give them a hug. Tell them you love them. Tell them the correction is because you care. Tell them you trust that they can do better. Don't leave the kid only with the pain of the correction. Leave them also with the security of love. And there was a prayer that Padre Pio taught to parents who had the habit of humiliating their kids and wanted to change. A prayer to ask God for help in this transformation. Lord, you entrusted these children to me. They are yours before they are mine. Help me to treat them as you would treat them, with love that corrects but does not destroy, with firmness that teaches but does not humiliate, with words that build up, never that tear down. Forgive me for the times I have hurt my children with my words. Forgive me for the humiliations I have caused. Forgive me for the damage I have done without realizing it. Give me wisdom to educate without destroying. Give me patience to correct without exploding. Give me love to discipline without hurting. May my children see in me a reflection of you, a father who loves unconditionally, a father who corrects with respect, a father in whom they can always trust. Amen. Padre Pio said that this prayer, prayed daily, would transform the parent's heart. It would give the necessary grace to change old patterns. It would bring the presence of God to the moments of correction. And for those who had been humiliated by their parents in childhood, Padre Pio also had a word. He said that the wounds could be healed, that the lies planted could be replaced by the truth, that the damage done by parents didn't need to define the rest of their lives. He taught a healing process that began with recognition, recognizing that what happened was wrong, that it wasn't normal, that it wasn't deserved. Many people who were humiliated in childhood normalize the abuse. They think they deserved it. They think their parents were right. Recognizing the injustice is the first step to healing. The second step was to grieve. Allow yourself to feel the pain. Cry the tears that were swallowed in childhood. Acknowledge the loss of a safe childhood, the loss of parents who should have protected you, the loss of innocence that was stolen. The third step was to replace the lies with the truth. The lies say that you're stupid, that you're good for nothing, that you're an embarrassment. The truth says that you are a child of God, loved unconditionally, created with purpose, worthy of respect. This replacement is a process. It requires repetition. It requires prayer. It requires time. The fourth step was to forgive, not because the parents deserved it, not because what they did was right, but to free your own soul from bitterness. Forgiving doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing not to carry the weight of anger anymore. It means handing justice over to God. And the fifth step was to break the cycle. Many people who were humiliated in childhood repeat the pattern with their own kids. Padre Pio said that the greatest victory was not passing on the pain. It was being the parent you needed and didn't have. It was giving your children what you didn't receive. Padre Pio knew a woman who was a powerful example of this cycle breaking. She had been brutally humiliated by her mom throughout her childhood, compared with her sisters, ridiculed in front of visitors, called ugly, stupid, incapable. When this woman had her first daughter, she felt something scary. She felt like doing the same thing. When her daughter made a mistake, her mum's words wanted to come out of her mouth. The temptation to humiliate was almost irresistible. It was as if the pattern was programmed into her. Desperate, this woman sought out Padre Pio. She told him what she was feeling. She said she was afraid of destroying her daughter in the same way she had been destroyed. She said she didn't know how to be different because she had never seen different. Padre Pio welcomed her with compassion. He said that the fact that she recognized the pattern was already a victory. Many parents repeat it without even realizing it. She was realizing it, and perception was the first step to change. He taught her a simple technique. Every time she felt like humiliating her daughter, she should stop, breathe, leave the room if necessary, and ask herself, what did I need to hear when I was a kid? What would have helped me? What would have built me up instead of destroying me? And then say to her daughter what she herself needed to have heard. Instead of, "You're stupid," say, "That was a mistake, but I know you can do better." Instead of, "You're an embarrassment," say, "You messed up, but I love you anyway." Instead of comparing her with other kids, say, "I see your effort and I'm proud of you." This woman practiced this technique for years. In the beginning, it was difficult. The right words didn't come out naturally. She had to think. She had to make an effort. But over time, it became easier. The new pattern replaced the old one, and the result was a daughter completely different from what she had been. A confident daughter, a daughter who knew she was loved, a daughter who wasn't afraid of making mistakes because she knew she would be treated with respect. The cycle had been broken. Padre Pio said that this woman was a heroine, not for having done something spectacular, but for having chosen every day not to pass on the pain, for having fought against a pattern that was ingrained in her, for having given her daughter what she herself never received. And there was a final reflection that Padre Pio made on this topic. He said that one day all parents would have to give an account to God for what they did with the children he entrusted to them, not only for the big things, but for the small things too. For every word spoken, for every humiliation caused, for every wound opened. And God would ask, "I gave you this child to take care of, to protect, to prepare for life. What did you do with them? Did you build them up or destroy them? Did you strengthen them or weaken them? Did you show them my love, or did you show them cruelty?" Padre Pio said that this perspective should guide every interaction with your children, every correction, every discipline, every word. Always ask yourself, if God were watching, would I make him proud? If Jesus himself stood here, would he approve of my actions? And in most cases of public humiliation, the answer would be a resounding no. Jesus never humiliated anyone publicly. He corrected in private. He treated everyone with dignity. He preserved their honor. And parents who truly seek to follow Jesus should strive to do the very same. Remember the timeless wisdom of Padre Pio. A parent's words are like seeds planted deep within the soul of a child. Words of love, they blossom into love. Words of respect, they cultivate respect. But words of humiliation, those create wounds that can fester for a lifetime. Choose your seeds carefully, because you will reap what you sow. If you've been subjected to the sting of humiliation by your own parents, you can be the generation that rewrites your family's story. You can be the generation that chooses respect over humiliation, the generation that nurtures instead of destroys, the generation that finally breaks the cycle of pain. And if you're a mom or dad watching this, I urge you, examine your parenting practices. Do you correct in private, or do you humiliate in public? Do you separate the behavior from the person, or do you attack the very core of your child's identity? Does your correction conclude with love, or does it leave behind only lingering pain? It's never too late to change. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness. It's never too late to start building up instead of tearing down. May Padre Pio intercede for all families. May Our Lady guide all parents to correct with love and compassion. And from this day forward, may every word spoken to our children be a word that builds up and never tears down. And if you feel moved to support this work, if you want to see more of these transformative teachings from Padre Pio reach families in need, consider clicking the golden heart of super thanks below. Every single contribution, it's a chance to help more parents embrace loving discipline. Every act of support means you're participating in the mission to shield kids from the shame of public humiliation. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever been humiliated by your parents in public? How did it impact you? Or perhaps you've inadvertently humiliated your own children and now deeply regret it. Share your story. Your testimony could be the catalyst that helps another family heal and change. And for all the parents watching right now, I leave you with a 30-day challenge. Commit to not humiliating your children in public, not even once. No snide comments in front of others, no hurtful comparisons, no belittling remarks, only public praise and private corrections. And then observe what happens. Watch how your children react. Notice how your relationship shifts. Observe how trust begins to blossom. 30 days might not seem like a long time, but it can be the spark, the beginning of a transformation that completely rewrites your family's legacy. Padre Pio, intercede for families trapped in cycles of humiliation. Intercede for parents who desperately want to change but don't know how. Intercede for the children who are being wounded right now. And intercede for the adults who still carry the scars of past humiliations. From this day forward, may every word be weighed carefully before it's spoken. May every correction be delivered with love and understanding. And may every child know that even when they make mistakes, they are always treated with dignity and respect, because a child's dignity is sacred, and protecting it is the sacred responsibility of every parent. God bless you, and may Padre Pio watch over you.